So hello and welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to the Cynic's Guide to Hippie Shit. So I'm here with Shelley Murray.
Hi.
And we're going to be talking about witchcraft.
Yeah.
So when I think about witchcraft, I have to be honest, I think of The Craft.
Yes.
One of the best films of the 90s.
Absolutely, yes.
And I think of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yes, again, brilliant 90s growing up TV.
Definitely. And I suspect other people will have similar kind of misconceptions.
Yeah.
So what is witchcraft?
So, witchcraft, I think, it's a very individual thing. I suppose it's like anything that we do that connects us to ourselves or some sort of spirit or whatever. Everyone has their own version of what it is. Ultimately, witchcraft is aligning yourself with the power of nature, with the cycles within nature, like the seasons, the moon, big one, the moon.
Yeah.
And harnessing the energies that fluctuate through the year and through the month to bring in things, to get rid of things, and to create magic, I guess is the right way to put it.
Okay, so you said two words there that could possibly kind of set people's woo-woo radar off.
Yeah.
You mentioned spirit and you mentioned magic.
Yeah.
So let's start with spirit. What do you mean by spirit?
So again, very, very individual. For a lot of witches, and it kind of overlaps because there's the practice of witchcraft and then there's also the Wiccan belief system. And a lot of witches kind of dabble into, the Wiccan beliefs. Some don't. But for many, it's about working with goddess energy.
Okay.
And God energy as well. You're looking back at, when you were in school and you did history lessons, you looked at the Roman gods, the Greek gods, the Norse gods, the Celtic gods. This is who we're talking about. It's getting in touch with those kind of energies. And we believe that they're kind of all one and the same, but with many different faces, many different powers, many different skill sets and specialisms, if you like. You'd call on one if you needed to be courageous and bold. You'd call on another if you needed comfort and, being nurtured and looking after. You'd call on another if you were doing something creative and you needed some inspiration. So when I talk about spirit in terms of witchcraft, it's getting in touch with goddess energy and with God energy to harness individual qualities and powers to take you forward and help you do what you need to do.
So when you're talking about gods and goddesses, are you talking about, all of these different figures that live up in clouds somewhere?
Absolutely, yeah. For me, what it is, they're all here. And now whether it's gods and goddesses, whether it's angels, whether it's God in a Christian sense, whether it is, fairies, magical beings, unicorns, whatever you want to believe in, I believe that they're all here, but we kind of just vibrate at different frequencies.
Okay.
So we can tap into the vibration of a goddess or a fairy or a god or a unicorn or whoever. Again, I can hear people's radars going, unicorns, what the hell? It's all just energy. It's all just energy, and we perceive this energy with different faces. It just brings a sense of comfort, and it brings a sense of empowerment, and it brings a sense of, I'm not alone in this, and I've got someone who's got my back when I'm going into times of strife or challenge or whatever, anything like that.
So it could be seen as something quite literal, but it could be seen as something like a kind of archetype or a metaphor.
Absolutely. And it's, again, like I say, it's such a very unique and personal path for everybody. And even, if you would talk to anyone of any faith group, different people within that group would have a different picture in their head as to what their, divinity looks like. You could find 10 different witches and they could talk about the goddess that they work with, and each would say, to me she's this, or the other one would say, well, to me she's this, and the other one would say, oh no, she's always come up with ginger hair to me, or whatever. But it's got, to me, is the beauty of it, because it's energy. It's energy, and the energy talks to us in a way that we can understand it and we can take it on board and we can perceive it. So it's how we perceive the energy. And again, with it being such a unique and individual path, my aim when I work with other people in witchcraft is to help them understand that it's okay to have a different perspective, a different opinion, and to work with what's right for them.
Yeah.
Not just because I work with a particular goddess energy, they should. Go find your own. I'll help you find that goddess energy. And the beauty of it is, and this is something that I'm really very passionate about, is that it's not separate from us. Not at all. We are all part of it. We all carry goddess energy. We all carry God energy. It's something that lives and breathes within us. Some of us are more in tune and can tap into it a bit easier. Others are a bit more afraid of it. But it's there. It's not separate. It's part of who we are. Yeah. We just need to learn to embrace that part of us and allow ourselves to live through that energy a bit more rather than fear of that energy.
So that reminds me a lot of, so I used to practice as a Buddhist. Mm-hmm. And in Buddhism, there's a lot of Buddhas and Bodhisattva figures. Yeah. And some people would believe that there is another realm somewhere, and these figures are sat on lotuses, on clouds, and I'm a cynic. Yeah. I took them as a metaphor. So if I say I wanted to think about compassion, I would think about green Tara. Yeah. But I wouldn't think, oh, I'm actually asking Karen, she's going to come and help me. Okay, yeah. But what I would think is, by connecting with what she represents, I would find my own compassion within me.
Yeah, and channel it through. Yeah. Yeah,
and they're kind of two different ways of looking at the same idea.
Yeah, and different people are more comfortable with different things. A lot of people that I've worked with maybe don't have the confidence to believe that they actually can embody those qualities themselves and be the goddess and actually, you know, represent the goddess energy in her magic and her beauty and her wisdom. So it's easier for them to start by almost personalising these figures and tapping into them. And, you know, oh, this is the Morrigan and this is Freya and this is, you know, Kali, and being able to see them as separate. But once they start doing a bit of work and they start to see the effect that actually bringing this sort of energy into them feels good, and actually they're achieving more and great things are happening and that opportunity's popping up, and, you know, it allows them that it's evidence building, I suppose. Yeah. Oh, well, actually, I can tap into it. And after time, once they've worked with these people, these gods, these goddesses, they become more confident with it and they start to see it within themselves and say, you know what, actually, I did that. And I've got the support of spirit, my team behind me, but I did that. I brought that forward. I made that happen. It's not about relying on these gods and goddesses to do things for you. You know, you don't, within witchcraft, you don't sit and plead and go, oh, Morrigan, please come and get me this job, or please come and make me feel better, or you know, it's not a prayer thing, it's not a worship thing, it's a, come give me the strength so that I can do this.
I like that.
Come fill me full of determination so that I know how to get, you know, to my next point. Come fill me full of comfort so that I don't feel so alone. And we all carry a bit of each of these goddesses within us. And when we need to, we can tap into different aspects. For example, I worked with Mother Goddess energy for a long time when I was going through having my children, when I was married. When I got divorced, the shift that took place, and I went very heavily back into maiden energy again because I wanted to get out there and be a bit freer and live my life and, you know, not abandon my children, clearly, but just go and experience a bit more fun, learn who I was all over again. And, you know, many women can identify with the different roles within the goddess. And people quite like the labels as well, to be able to go, oh, this is what I'm doing right now, and oh, this is what I'm doing right now. The Morrigan was the first one that came to me, and I was quite young. I mean, I grew up on a farm. Not too far from here, but literally in the middle of nowhere on top of a hill. And, you know, I don't think you can grow up somewhere like that without being able to say there's something, you know, in nature, there's something in energy. And the Morrigan came to me pretty early on. Other goddesses I worked strongly with Bridget, who was another big triple goddess. She's big Irish. I mean, I think she's a saint, Bridget, and, you know, they turned her into a saint in Ireland to get people to convert, but never mind, we'll not go into that. Freya's another big one of mine. Ceridwen's another big one of mine. And then Isis is, I think she was maybe, Morrigan came to me when I was very young, and as I moved into my teens, it was safer for me on an emotional level to move away from this sort of belief, because, well, when you're in your teenage years, you discover things like boys and drinking and skiving school, and, you know, people don't really want to accept people who are that little bit weird.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit trendier now, so people can get away with it. But, back in the early 90s, it wasn't a thing. If you were a weirdo, you got beaten up. That was just that. So it was easier for us to kind of just put it away, put it on a shelf, forget about it. But it came back with a bang. I'd be about 18, 19, and things just started happening. I just couldn't avoid it. And it was Isis, the Egyptian goddess Isis, that called me back in. And different things happened. Like I was in Waterstones one day, and actually it wasn't Waterstones. It was in the centre of Newcastle. There used to be a bookshop called Dillon's.
Okay.
On the corner, and I was in there, and I could see this mind, body, spirit section, or self-help, or whatever it was called back then, and walking through, and this book literally fell off the shelf in front of me, and it was Gods and Goddesses, and I opened it, and Isis was the goddess that was inside, and I thought, okay, right, fine. Then I was on a bus going to uni or whatever I was doing at the time, and this van pulled out at this street, pulled out in front of this bus. The bus had to slam its anchors on. The van had Isis written down the side, and it's just little things like this, little things. And whether you see it as the universe, whether you see it as goddesses, whether you see it as God, magic, whatever, this is how it talks to you. And if you're open to it, and you follow that guidance, it just starts opening door after door after door. It's when we go, I'm too busy thinking about my own shit. I'm too stressed. I'm too wound up in this very human problem of mine. We don't notice this call.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sounds like what you're talking about is the difference between cynicism and receptivity.
Absolutely. Perfect example for you.
Good.
So I used to have a treatment room on the other side of Hexham, and I used to park in the big Wentworth car park and walk up the bank, which is a killer when you're carrying bags of oil and kit and towels and things. And there was one morning I was making my way up this hill, and in front of me on the ground, it was early, there was no one else around, was this big trail of white feathers going all the way up. And I looked, and the first thing my head said was, the angels have paved a path for me on my way to work today. And I got very excited about it. Then the little cynic side of my head went, no, a cat's probably just savaged a bird in the night is what's happened. And you know what? It was a real crunch point for me, because I stopped and I said to myself, well, how do I want to view this? Do I want to start my day with a savaged animal, or do I want to start my day with angels paving my way to work for me?
So it's a choice.
Absolutely a choice. Absolutely a choice. We have to each get through our days, but do we want to get through our days with a bit of magic and a bit of connection, be that to angels, gods and goddesses, fairies, flowers, unicorns, whatever? Or do we want to just have a boring old another day? And then a boring day turns into a boring week, it turns into a boring month, a boring year, boring life. And then you get to the end of it and go, I'm pretty sure there was meant to be so much more.
There was some magic that I missed.
Yeah, I missed it. I missed it all.
I got a shiver when I said that.
There's a book title there, isn't there?
Well, I could ignore that. My cynic could now go, well, you've just turned the heating off, that's probably why. Or I could go...
choose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's the same when it comes down to witchcraft, doing spells and rituals. Someone could look and go, well, you're just sticking a bit of oil on a candle and scratching a name in it, How is that? It's coincidence that actually did make you feel better, or that did make that money appear tomorrow, or that did make that person ring you, or the job come up. You would have got the job anyway, anything like that. You can choose to think, well, it was just coincidence, or you can choose to think, no, I took a hold of this. I brought in some energy. I made this happen. I took control of my life, and I created an opportunity that I grasped hold of and danced straight into it.
And you're setting an intention, aren't you?
Yeah.
So if you're doing some sort of weird hippie shit that is, supposedly going to bring something positive, it could be a load of bollocks.
Could be, absolutely.
But you're still directing your attention in the direction that you want to go in.
Does it feel good?
Yeah, so it feels good. And say you have got a job interview, and you do a whole load of hippie shit to bring in positive results, you're going to perform better because you think that you've done something.
And does it matter if it works? I mean, in my heart, I believe it does work. I genuinely, I have done spells and rituals that have resulted in things happening that there is no coincidence there. There is no explanation there. It is just wow, right, okay. I mean, this interview is to be honest, is one of them. I've been looking at different ways to kind of branch out and stretch my legs a little bit when it comes to the stuff that I do. And I sat and I kind of called out, and I was, I would love I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I would love you to show me my next steps going forward. Next day, your email was in.
Oh, really?
Hand on heart. Next day, your email was in.
Wow.
Asking me if I'd like to be interviewed. And I went, all right then.
Interesting.
So, but it all links in with energy. It all links in with, as you say, intention. And when you do a spell, when you do a ritual, there is a bit of a difference. What you are doing is you are focusing your intention. Now, it comes down to pure science in some ways, that if you pour enough energy and attention onto creating an outcome, you're going to get that outcome.
Yeah.
So if you look at it through science eyes, you look at it through skeptic's eyes, you look under coincidence labels. If you look at it through a witch's eyes, does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it matter? If it's making you feel good and bringing you the results that you want, hey, go for it,